In this video, we're going to give the old F-150 some new stopping power. So sit back and I'll take you along for the ride. Alright, so like I mentioned, it's time to give the F-150 some new brakes. So I went down to the local auto parts store and I picked some up here. So I got myself a set of pads, full set of pads with hardware. Actually says made in the USA, if you can imagine that. And then I got myself a set of rotors for the front. Yep. See if we can get them open here. There we go. Nice fresh set. So first thing we're going to do is get the one side up on jacks. So I will bring you back once I get it up on the jack. Alright, tires off the ground. I've got a jack right there, and I've actually got a jack stand under the frame for safety there, just in case something moves on me here while I'm moving around. Alright, so we're going to take our impact, pop our tire off. Oh, of course that one's going to get stuck on me. There we go. Come on. Okay. Get those out of the way. Now, we've got aluminum wheels and we've got steel, what do you call, hub in there, right? Or steel rotors. So, the aluminum likes to bond with the steel. So what we're going to do, and it's hard to get off, so what I do is I take a big heavy rubber mallet like this and I work my way around, giving it really good swift hits. I do 2 or 3 laps around and I'll give the tire a kick and it should pop off. It worked in one of my other videos. We'll see if it works in this one. Let's give her a shot. Alright, let's try giving her a kick, see what happens. Look at that. Popped right off. Okay. Alright, let's roll him out of the way and we will get into the meat area there and show you what we're working with. So hold on one second. Alright guys, here's what we're dealing with. Can't really see the pads at the moment. I'll show you once I get it apart, but you can see here the rotor is pretty grooved right here. So it's showing some good wear. This hasn't been replaced in probably 3 years, so I knew it was time. Alright, so in order to get this all apart here, what we got to do, we've got a brake bleeder here. Now, that's not brake fluid, that's actually liquid wrench I sprayed on there. I'm going to crack the brake bleeder loose before I do this because it'll help me when I push my caliper pistons back in. So I've got to crack that loose. Once I get that cracked loose, I have 13mm bolt here for the caliper, another 13mm bolt down here for the caliper. Those usually come out pretty easy because like the threads are down in here and there's actually lube in here. So that shouldn't be a problem. So I'm going to go ahead and crack that loose. One thing to note too on the bleeder here, they do get kind of rusty, so that's why I hit it with the PB Blaster. And I'm going to take my hammer and lightly tap around all the edges here. If there is any rust, it'll help loosen it up. I don't snap off that bleeder. So I'm going to go ahead and just take my hammer. Oh, if I can reach it. I'm not left-handed, so we'll see how this goes. But just kind of tap around like that, right? I'm going to do it a little bit more off camera where I can get in there a little bit better, but I'm just going to work around that a little bit, and then I'm going to crack that bleeder loose so that it's not a struggle once I get the caliper off. So stay tuned and I'll get that done. Alright, so you can see I actually got her loose. It was pretty tight. So I'm going to go ahead and just snug that up so it's not dripping fluid, and I'll show you what we're going to do with that in a minute here. But don't horse that thing. If it's really tight, don't force it because you will break it off. Give it a little bit more penetrant. Tap it with the hammer a little bit more again around the housing here. Don't tap on the bleeder itself. Tap around the housing just to break up that rust, and you should get it. Okay. All right. I'm going to go ahead and get my caliper bolts taken off. Again, that's a 13 millimeter on this. It's an 09 to 14 F-150. Should all be the same, I believe. So that's what I'm going to use. I'll get those loosened up, and I'm going to take a pry bar and pry back on the caliper to get it off. Something to note too, when you get it off, it's going to be hanging on by nothing but this brake line here. Don't let it hang there, so give it some support. You can take a bungee and loop it through some of the hardware on there to give it some support, tie it onto something so it's not just dangling there by itself. So I'm going to go ahead and get that loose, and I'll bring you back. All right, so I got our caliper loose. I'm supporting it with my hand right now, so I'm not putting pressure on that brake line back there. So now let's take a look at our boots here on our caliper. You want to make sure that there's no rips or anything like that in there. So I'm not really seeing much. It looks pretty good. So if you do see rips in there, you're going to want to replace them because that lets dust and debris back inside there, and it's not going to let your pad slide or your piston slide in and out. So good idea to replace those if you see rips in there. So I'm in pretty good shape, so I'm going to go ahead and keep these. So now what we have to do is get those pistons pushed back in. So let me get myself rigged up here, and I'll show you how we're going to accomplish that. 1 second. All right, everybody. Here's my rig here. So, whoops, almost dropped the phone. So we have to push the pistons in so that when we get our new pads on, you'll be able to slide the caliper back on. Because these pads are so worn, as you can see, that's my inner pad right there I actually took off to aid me in doing this process. It has almost nothing left, so I replaced these just in time. But anyways, took my inner pad off, laid it across both pistons there. I took a 1/2-inch drive socket, put the 1/2-inch back end side of it against that bolt there, and then I've got a C-clamp. The socket's big enough where I fit my C-clamp inside there, so this is going to help hold that rig nice and steady. So here's how I'm going to drive that piston back in. Now, earlier I mentioned we loosened the bleeder plug. That's for this process right here. So I'm going to loosen that bleeder plug back up so that when I push this piston in, it relieves the brake pressure, or the brake fluid pressure, and it doesn't push that back up into the ABS unit, because I've been told that actually can damage your ABS unit. So this is what we're going to do. I'm going to get you set up on the tripod and show you how this is going to work. So stay tuned. Just bear with me just a second here. Okay, so this obviously isn't the ideal way to do this. There are plenty of tools you can rent from places like AutoZone, Pep Boys, O'Reilly's, whatever like that are specially made for this, but you got to work with what you got. And I've got a C-clamp, and I've got a socket, and an old brake pad. So it's going to accomplish the same thing. So I've already loosened up my bleeder. I actually have a catch pan down below me. So now we're going to tighten this C-clamp, and you can see, hopefully you can see there's brake fluid spurting out as I'm doing this. So I'm relieving that pressure. That also means my piston's going in real nice. So I'm just going to keep doing that until my piston is all the way back in. Or pistons, I guess. So yeah, if you do it really hard, that brake fluid really squirts. So I'm just kind of trying to do it nice and easy so that the brake fluid just kind of runs down into my catch pan here. But we're almost back to where we need to be. So let me finish this up. Okay. There, we got our pistons all the way back in. That was actually pretty easy. All right, so now I'm going to go ahead and snug that bleeder back up. Righty tighty, lefty loosey. Okay, that's all tightened back up. All right, now I can take off my clamp, and I'll get us ready for the next step. So stay tuned, and I will bring you back once that's done. All right, so I got my rig all taken apart there. You can see I've got my caliper bungeed up here so that I'm not putting pressure on this line here. All right, so next thing we got to do, well, actually, first thing I should mention is, since I had that brake fluid gushing in here, I took my brake clean and I sprayed everything down just to make sure that everything, gets clean and dried up here. That's why it looks all wet everywhere in there. When you're in here, it's also a good idea just to take a look around and look for things that, might be a problem, some rusty brake lines, or check your CV boots to make sure they're not cracked or anything like that. I've already done that. Everything looks good. So now I've got to take off my caliper bracket. So I've got a bolt here, and a bolt here. So those are 21 millimeter. So I'm going to go ahead and pop those off. I can't get my impact back there very easily, so I'm going to use a just standard ratchet. These tend to be a little bit tighter, so you may need to help this one out a little bit. So I'm going to have that ratchet on there. I'm going to probably whack up with the dead blow on the handle of the ratchet just to pop those loose, but usually they're not too bad. So I'm going to go ahead and pop that bad boy loose, and I'll bring you back. All right, we've got our caliper bracket out, and I've got it secured in the vise here. So we want to take off our old hardware here. So note the direction of this. So whenever I'm taking stuff apart, I typically will take pictures of it just so I know I'm putting it back together the right way. I don't do this stuff every day like mechanics do, so I only do this every once in a while, so it helps me to remember stuff like that. So hopefully it helps you. All right, anyways, note the direction of these little tabs on here. On both sides, they're pointed out. Same thing over here. You probably can't see that in this direction, but you want those in that configuration. So all you really have to do is take a screwdriver and pry out on those little tabs, and they pop right out. So I'm going to go ahead and pop all 4 of those out, and then I'm going to take a wire brush or wire wheel and clean up the surface here to make sure that there's no like rust buildup and stuff like that, so that the new hardware can go in there nice and smooth. So I'm going to go ahead and do that, and then I'll bring you back. Alright, I've got my surfaces all cleaned up there for my hardware. Now it's time to clean up my caliper slides. So I'm going to go ahead and pull that out. See, that one slid out really nice and easy. I already slid the other one out. You want to take it and examine it. Here, tough to do with one hand, but I'm going to slide that boot off. Make sure there's no rust pits or anything like that. And I'm going to take brake clean and clean this up really good out here and in here. And then, where is my caliper kit? Well, it came with my new pad kit came with, the new hardware and caliper grease. So I'm going to go ahead and lube that up really good on the caliper grease, or on the caliper slide, once I clean this all out with brake clean. And then I'm going to put a dab of caliper grease on the surface for our hardware there too, just to help keep that from rusting up. So I'm going to go ahead and get all that cleaned up and bring you back once I got that back together. So 1 second. Alright, I've already done side number 1 here, but I've got my slide all cleaned up. Pay special attention to right in there, because you get a lot of buildup, and the boot rides over the top of that. So you want to take a pick and clean it out as good as you can, and then give it a good healthy dose of caliper grease that came with the kit. Also put some on the inside of the boot to help that slide on better. So I'm going to go ahead and slide my boot on, pop it on there, and now we're going to go ahead and get it in here. And you want to make sure that it slides in and out really nice. Want to make sure there's no airlock. Want to make sure there's not a lot of side-to-side movement on either of those. That all looks good. Something I didn't note is the orientation of these too. When I pulled them out, they were up and down like this. So you want to put them back in the same orientation. I also went ahead and like I said, I put some grease on the mating surface for our hardware there. I got our hardware in. Again, clips out on both sides and over there. I'm not going to put my pads on yet. I'm going to wait for that because you can see I got dirty gloves. And I got one more thing I got to do. So let me flip you around and I'll show you what that is. Alright, I still need to get my rotor off. So now it's rusted on there pretty good. So this is going to take a little bit. So you have to be really careful with this step so you don't ding anything up. But what I do is I need to break up this rust. So I take it and I keep giving her taps around there. You've got to be really careful so you don't hit the threads on here and ding up your lugs there. So you want to keep working around. I don't know if you can see that or not, but there is rust stuff falling off there. So you keep working around, keep working around, keep working around, and you're slowly loosening up that rust. You can give her some taps on the back here, and eventually that will pop free. So I'm going to keep working that, and I'll bring you back once I get it to pop free. So stay tuned. All right, well, we got her. It wasn't easy, but we got her. She was really rusted on there. I wound up hitting it with some penetrant. You can see it actually did seep in there and bust it loose. Hit it with a little bit of liquid wrench, kept hammering, and she finally popped off. So I didn't do these the last time. I had to shop and do them because I had a broken hand at the time. What you're supposed to do is clean up the hub really good, and then you see the surfaces where it's rusted, where it's mated. You want to coat that with anti-seize, and it doesn't appear that the dealer did that. So that's what gave me such a hard time. I mean, don't get me wrong. If you live in a state where you get lots of salt in the winter, you're still going to have issues, but I haven't had this much issue with it, so it doesn't appear that they used anti-seize on there. So it looks like it was just on there raw. So I'm going to go ahead and spray this down with some brake clean, take the wire wheel and clean up the rusty surfaces just to try to make it a little bit more smooth, and then hit it with some more brake clean, and then I'll bring you back for the next step. So stay tuned. All right, I've got my hub all cleaned up, and you can see I put a nice healthy dose of anti-seize on there on all the surfaces that were mating that would get rusty. Now, I mentioned I didn't want to touch my pads and stuff like that yet because I had dirty gloves, so I've got clean gloves on. Now what I need to do is to take my new rotor and I want to clean it up. I don't know if you can see it in the video here, but it's got a coating of oil on there just to keep it from rusting while it's in that package there. So I'm going to take my brake clean, spray it down. It's hard to do on video. Spray her on down really good, and then wipe her down a couple times just to get all that oil off there, because you don't want to put oil on your brand new pads because that's going to not let you stop very good. So we're going to get those all nice and clean. I'm going to do the backside first. Then I'm going to put the rotor on the hub, held on just loosely with 2 lug nuts, and I'm going to clean the front side. So I'll bring you back once that's done, and then I'll show you what we're going to do with the pads. So stay tuned. All right, rotor is set in place on my hub there. Like I said, I've got the 2 lug nuts on there just to help hold it in place, and I've got everything all cleaned up with brake clean. So that's all ready to go and spick and span. Now we're going to move on to our brake pads here. So taking a look at my old ones here, I said this was the inside because it was well worn. If you remember from earlier in the video, this is the outside. So look at the difference here, right? The inside has 2 humps on it. The outside has no humps. So I've got to put the new pads on the same way. So now, okay, which is the inside, which is the outside? Well, if you remember from the video earlier, I took the nuts off, or the bolts off from this side inside the wheel well. So that is our inside, this is our outside. And which direction do they go? Well, you can see there's a curve here. Well, if I take my outside pad without the hump, it's going to go in here over that hump and into our hardware here. I can't really do it with one hand here. I'm going to do it off camera with 2, but I'm going to go get this set up, and I'll show you once it's set up, and then we'll put it back on the vehicle. All right, there we go. Pads are set in my caliper bracket. Again, dual humps, hump side, smooth side. Hump side is inside. Hump side is inside. Smooth side is outside. Over here, we've got the hump here, so that means the curved side of the pad goes over that. This is pretty easy. There's some caliper holders that are not like that. They're just straight, so people will get that mixed up, but that's the way. That makes it pretty easy on this setup. Yay Ford. All right, and then I set these in here a little bit to the outside. That way I can make sure it fits over my rotor pretty easily when I put it back together. So I'm going to go ahead and slide this over my rotor, and then we're going to work on getting this thing bolted up. So give me a minute, and I'll bring you right back. All right, should mention too that your caliper bracket bolts, you're going to want to take and put in the wire wheel or wire brush and clean those up really good to get those threads clean. And then you do need Loctite on there. So I'm going to put just a dab of red Loctite on each of those to make sure that those stay in place. So I'm going to go ahead and do that. Get this thing back in place and then bring you back. All right, caliper bracket is bolted up. You can see I've got both my bolts in there. Those are supposed to be torqued to 184 foot-pounds, I believe. My torque wrench is actually busted right now, so I can't do that. So I gave her as best I could with my ratchet there, and then I gave her a bunch of swift smacks with the hammer here to really try to snug that up. So not the right way to do it, but right now I got to work with what I got, and I don't got a torque wrench, I got a hammer, and I got a ratchet. So that's where we're at. You really should torque that one up because that's really important. That holds your whole brake assembly together there. All right, so now we're going to go ahead and get our caliper back on. So again, be really careful once I unbungee that I don't put a twist or any excess tension on that rubber line so we rupture that line. So that would not be a good day. So I'm going to go ahead and get my caliper back on. Oh, I should mention too, now that I've got my caliper bracket on, I slid my pads in just so they're making contact with the rotor right there, just to help make it easier to get my caliper back on. All right, so everything's looking good. We'll get that caliper back on and bolted up, and then I'll show you once that's done. All right, everything's bolted up, and we look like we're in good shape here. You know, make sure you got your 2 bolts in here, your 2 bolts for the caliper bracket. put my little rubber tipper back on the bleeder there, made sure that was snugged up, and I went ahead and gave the backside just one more spray down with brake clean to get all that residual brake fluid off of there. Now, one more thing that we should do, we want to go ahead and clean up our mating surface on the inside of our rim there. You can see there is a buildup, a little bit of corrosion there, so we want to make sure that's nice and flat. So it mates up nice and flat with our nice flat surface on our new rotor there. I have heard of guys that it's more so on steel rims and steel rotors where you get builds up of rust. And then when you go to compress the rim down when you're putting the lug nuts on, that the lug nuts will actually come loose eventually because that rust kind of gives way. Shouldn't have that problem here, but just to make sure, it's a good idea to clean up that mating surface there to make sure it's nice and flat. So I'm going to take my wire wheel and clean that up, and then we'll get that tire back on. So stay tuned and I'll bring it back. Okay, we've got the tire back on, wheel back on the ground, and side number 1 is complete. Now it's time to move on to side number 2. I'm not going to go ahead and show you that because it should be identical. I will bring you back if there is some sort of an issue I run into or something I should point out to you. But I'm going to go ahead and do that off camera. But I will bring you back and we're going to go out for the test ride and I'll show you the procedure that I use for bedding the brakes. So stay tuned and I'll bring you back. Alright, side number 2 is done. So now let's hop in, start it up, and see what our pedal feels like. Let's give her a push. Yep, she's going to feel a little spongy at first. She's going to want to go towards the floor. We can just pump it a couple times and it comes back. Alright, so let's put her in drive. Let's just see. Yep, she wants to roll forward. Stopping. That's good. Now, let's hop out and check our brake fluid here. So don't forget to do this because we did, we drained out quite a bit as we were pushing those pistons back in. So you can see here, here's our full, and here's where we are. So we're gonna go ahead and top off our brake fluid. Then we should be ready for our test drive. So let's get that topped off, and then I'll bring you back once we're in the truck. All right, I got our brake fluid topped off. I got the truck pulled outside, and now we're ready to bed the brakes. So before we do that, I thought I'd explain why we want to do this. Bedding the brakes is essentially breaking in your brakes. You want to do that because when the brake touches the bare metal, it doesn't actually stop very well. It's not very grippy. So you want to transfer brake material from the brake pads onto the rotors. And you want to do that in an even fashion. Now, if you don't break in the brakes, what'll happen is over a short period of time, you'll develop uneven deposits on the rotor. So the brake is going to feel bumpy, so as you're applying the brakes. And it's going to feel like your rotors are warped, but that's not actually the case. It's uneven brake deposits on there, and your brakes aren't actually going to work very well. So what we're going to do is go out up here on the road, and we're going to go through a series of heat and cool cycles to deposit brake material onto the rotors. So we're gonna do 3 cycles at 25 miles per hour. So accelerate it up to 25 miles per hour. Use moderate braking to slow down to 5. Speed up to 25 miles per hour again. Moderate braking to slow down to 5, and repeat that 3 times. Then we're going to drive a little bit. Then we're going to repeat that same process at 35. Then we're going to drive a little bit. That's getting a little bit of heat into the rotors so that it doesn't get thermally shocked from applying brakes too hard, too fast. Then we're going to go up to 45, and we're going to repeat the same process, but instead of using moderate braking, we're going to use heavy braking. Now, we're not just going to stand on it. We're just going to use heavy braking enough so it's going to stop hard, but doesn't apply your ABS. We're going to do that 3 times at 45. Then we're going to do that 3 times at 55. Then we're just going to go ahead and drive for another mile or 2 just to let the brakes cool down, and then we'll park it, and we should be in good shape. So I'm going to start us up and get us to a safe portion of road where there's not going to be a lot of cars driving around for me to be in front of me and behind me, and we'll do this safely. So I'll catch you up once we're down the road. All right, here we are on a pretty safe section of road, and we're going to start the process. So we're going to go up to 25, and then slow down to 5 with moderate braking. I got a car coming behind me, so I'm going to let him go. 1 second. Okay, car's gone. Get ourselves back up to 25. And moderate braking down to 5. Okay, gonna do it one more time. And moderate braking. Okay, now we're gonna do 35 3 times. One. Two. Three. All right. I'll go to 45 and we'll do some heavy braking. 45. There we go. 1. 2. All right. I'm just gonna go up here a piece and turn around, and we're gonna do the same thing at 55. 1 second. All right, turned around, and we're gonna get up to 55. Heavy braking. It's 1. Whoop. Had to wait for another car there, so okay. Time for round 2. Getting up to 55, and heavy brake. Okay, and we'll do one more. And get her down to stopping. All right, now I got those brakes really good and hot now, so I'm gonna go for a nice mile or 2 drive here to let them cool off, and then I'll bring you back once I've done that. Stay tuned. All right, we've got everything cooled off, so I think we're in good shape. The brake pedal feels nice and firm. It grabs real nice and hard. Feels really smooth. There's no thumping or anything like that. So yeah, I think everything's good. Well, thank you all for watching. I hope this helps somebody out. If you want to leave something down in the comments, please do, about anything I could do differently. I'd like to hear about it. Till the next video, please like and subscribe. We'll keep this sort of thing going, and I'll sign off. Take care.